so much for inviting me and having this important event. It's great to see such a large crowd here to talk about this important issue. My job is easy, really. Not only should we recognize the moral imperative, you heard that story already this morning, the moral imperative to do something about lead poisoning in our communities, but I'm here to tell you that there is a solid economic case as well. There's a strong business case to do something about lead poisoning. And it's so straightforward, in fact, that my research, I don't know how to work this. You can advance the slide. My research was cited on, by Sesame Street. Really, it's true. John Oliver had a segment on lead poisoning. I don't know if you've seen it. I highly recommend it. And Oscar the Grouch talks about my research, so it's great. And he finds that, he says that for every dollar invested results in a return of $17 to $221. So that's the main result. I could just leave now, but I'm going to try to give you some details and tell you really what's going on in my research. Because it's basically just summing up a whole bunch of research that's already been out there. Great work by MDs and PhDs that have looked at this issue for many years, and I just do some math on top of that. So it's a well-established fact, and the previous panels provided the medical evidence that lead poisoning is a serious hazard for children and causes significant biological and neurological damage linked to cognitive and behavioral impairment. In recognition of this fact, we saw policymakers take action, and they have over the last few decades. Bans on leaded gasoline and paint have greatly reduced the incidence of dangerous lead levels. As a result, the number of children with high lead levels and average blood levels have fallen dramatically in the United States. But many children are still at risk for damaging lead exposure. And although there remains clear signs of lead poisoning from some pottery, toys, food packaging, and water, lead paint and related lead dust and chips remain the leading cause of high lead levels in children today. So therefore, that's why my research and my comments today focus on lead paint in housing. The objective of my study was to compare the costs and benefits of lead paint hazard control. While the results can be summed up rather simply, as you heard, there were some challenges in conducting the cost-benefit analysis. As much as I'd like to present a singular point, a point estimate with great certainty, the data do not allow such precision. The costs of reducing lead paint hazards vary with the extent of intervention required, which is often unknown until you really get in there and look at each of the housing units. And there's also uncertainty with regard to the actual number of children affected in any given state and across the country. While surveillance data is important, testing is non-random and not universal. So as I already said, my focus is on lead paint and housing. In 2000, the President's task force estimated that a minimal intervention where it's required would cost $1,200 per housing unit, while a more extensive assessment and abatement would cost just under $11,000 per unit. It's estimated that about 1.2 million homes have lead paint hazards and low-income families with young children. Taken together, the cost of significantly reducing these lead hazards range from $1.2 to $11 billion. So that's on the cost side. You've already heard about the impacts of lead poisoning on children and young adults. I'm going to outline some of those costs of that lead poisoning in terms of healthcare and social and behavioral costs. High lead levels can cause multiple and irreversible health problems, including learning disabilities, attention deficit, hyperactivity disorder, mental retardation, growth stunting, seizures, comas, or at high levels, even death. Treatment for low lead levels entails continuous monitoring and prevention of further exposure, while higher lead levels requires chemical chelation to leach lead directly from the body, an expensive, time-consuming, painful, and sometimes dangerous procedure. The CDC prescribes specific medical interventions at each blood lead range. Using other studies, an estimated number of cases from CDC state-level surveillance, and data from the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey, I find that medical costs range from $10 to $53 million per cohort of children under 6 years old. Using similar methods, I estimate the cost of lead poisoning to IQ in terms of lifetime earnings and foregone tax revenue, in terms of special education and lead-linked ADHD cases, and criminal activity. Total IQ loss is estimated non-linearly for each blood lead level, then multiplied by the estimated number of children affected. Lower IQ not only leads to lower likelihood of high school completion, but also directly leads to lower lifetime earnings. In a world where we want to achieve the greatest potential for the U.S. economy, leaving IQ points on the table is a grave mistake and is a cost to both the individual and society at large. Drawing from the research literature on the cost of each IQ point loss on earnings, I extrapolate the estimated IQ loss of between 9.3 and 13.1 million points to costs between $165 and $233 billion for one cohort of young children. Using a 15% marginal tax rate, a rather conservative estimate, lost tax revenue is estimated to be about $25 to $35 billion. Children with high lead levels are in need of special education because of their slower development, lower educational success, and related behavioral problems. It is estimated that special education is needed for about 20% of children with blood lead levels greater than 25 micrograms per deciliter, for a total cost of $30 to $146 million, again for each cohort of lead-poisoned children under 6 years old. Drawing on research on the link between early lead exposure and ADHD and the costs of ADHD treatment, I estimate costs at $267 million for those ADHD cases. And then using only the direct costs of lead-linked crime from the U.S. Bureau of Justice Statistics, that's fewer burglaries, robberies, aggravated assaults, rapes, and murders, comes to $1.8 billion in averted costs if we got rid of lead poisoning. And here I include only these direct costs, including direct victim costs. Adding in the indirect costs of psychological and physical damage necessitating treatment, we would have had to add in another $11.6 billion lost. To demonstrate the cost effectiveness of lead hazard control, really to make that business case, I summed and compared the total benefits and costs of childhood lead level reduction. Again, the cost of lead hazard control range from $1.2 to $11 million. Again, that's just looking at lead in housing. The benefits I've described sum to $192 to $270 billion. Therefore, the net benefit of lead hazard control ranges from $181 to $269 billion. That's how much money you save, resulting in a return of $17 to $221 for each dollar invested in lead hazard control. So those are huge benefits in that whole range there. And I firmly believe that the truth lies somewhere in that interval, 1 to 17, between 1 to 17 and 1 to 221. But there are a couple of caveats that I just want to mention quickly before ceding the floor to Dr. Lynch to discuss her important research. First, there are many costs not included. Cost to health later in life, cost to property, and the aforementioned indirect cost to criminal activity. At the same time, lead-based paint isn't the only source of lead exposure. So I could downweight these estimates, these benefits, to take into account the costs of full remediation. It's estimated about 70% of lead poisoning comes from that. So even if you took 70%, you're still talking a minimum cost benefit of every dollar invested, you get about $12 in return. So in conclusion, if the cost of proactive and universal lead hazard control is seen as prohibitive, the costs of inaction have proven to be significantly greater. There is a strong business case, and there is a clear policy path forwards. Thank you.